Monday, December 5th, 2022 was an important day in science. Reaching ignition in a controlled fusion experiment is an achievement that has come after more than 60 years of global research, development, engineering, and experimentation. During experiments, 192 high-energy lasers converge on a target about the size of a peppercorn, heating a capsule of deuterium and tritium to over 3 million degrees Celsius and briefly simulating the conditions of a star. In achieving ignition, we have taken the first tentative steps towards a clean energy source that could revolutionize the world.
Good evening, Red Star Rebels. It's December 22nd, 2022. This is our final regular Season 2 podcast, episode number 35. And we are Red Star Report. I'm Hal G. Lohr, and this is Voices for the California Nation. 'Twas the 5th of December, Lawrence Livermore Labs, a breakthrough in fusion from California we had. The promise of power, cheap, abundant, and clean, to replace fossil fuels, filthy profits obscene. Maybe. So, season's greetings and a merry whatever you as a Californian choose to celebrate at this time of year. This is Red Star Report number 35, and our final regularly scheduled show of 2022. And yes, typical. While Congress and Biden are all snug in their beds, with fossil fuel profits that dance in their heads, gas prices keep hurting, people can't afford rent. With food insecure, too many homeless in tents. I was very excited to hear that Californians had possibly added another piece to the global energy solution puzzle. Even as Department of Energy and defense industry experts rush to point out that even with this California breakthrough, nuclear fusion is still a long way off. Which is absolutely true if you understand that U.S. energy officials and politicians are not just bought and paid for by the U.S. fossil fuel industry. They also still blindly hold the 20th century vintage American imperial worldview that every scientific breakthrough must be weaponized by the U.S. military-industrial complex. Both industrial entities with exactly zero interest in any form of cheap, clean, renewable power simply for the good of the planet and or survivability of mankind. I mean, forgive me for being a little too California independence movement here, but the U.S. government funding nuclear fusion research for military applications doesn't make sense. I mean, considering that if we don't get a handle on climate change in the next 25 years, Earth will become unlivable anyway, and it could take decades for clean nuclear fusion to become a practical power source. A U.S. government that could focus primarily on more efficient hydrogen bombs is almost cartoonishly ridiculous in the face of global climate extinction. Here's a hint. It's not a hoax, okay? America, if you don't address this global environmental crisis, you won't need the bombs to kill the fucking world. I mean, you get that, right? But for our Red Star Rebels, it's no surprise that U.S. corporate interests and their paid experts immediately engage in jargon gymnastics here. Amerisplaining away any possible criticism that even though progress on the peaceful application of nuclear fusion in the fight against climate change could be accelerated dramatically with a moonshot mentality. But Underfunding, regulatory delays, and unending negative right-wing political media campaigns designed to support the U.S. fossil fuel industry will guaranteed be America's pre-chosen regressive methodology. And yet, another possible industry where an independent California would have been an absolute dominant economic power will probably go to the Chinese or to India or to the EU, just like wind and solar did. Just watch. But of course, if you do watch closely, because the funding for any and all U.S. military applications of nuclear fusion will face little to no opposition. And even though this nuclear fusion breakthrough is a once-in-a-lifetime, and I mean big-time, Wright Brothers at Kitty Hawk kind of game-changer scientific event, maybe for the good of humanity, Hunter Biden's laptop is trending more in the U.S. mediaverse. As a Californian, you can see it in these glowing reminders of America's priorities. At this festive holiday season, as they approach the winter break, the federal government made sure to send an additional $38 billion in funding to Ukraine to fight Russia. Congress also pretty much unanimously signed off on a Christmas gift 2023 budget for the Pentagon of $823 billion. Add in supplemental funding to be determined later, next when the Republican Party regains control of the House and the military budget for 2023, even though America is not currently at war, will easily top $1 trillion. This from a federal government facing another budgetary shutdown before they go home for the holidays after doing nothing for those Californians that have no home for the holidays? Not even coal in their stockings. And with that, we present Red Star Report's final report of the season. Podcast 35, A Californian's Retort. As we spring to the mic on this cold winter night, happy holidays to all. And keep up the good fight. This is Voices for the California Nation.
In the picture we are about to see, we must remember that the explosive power of atomic bombs used in this test was in the kiloton range. The explosive power of today's hydrogen bomb is measured in terms of megatons.
H minus 10 seconds. 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. 0.
For our last 2022 edition of Activism in Action, Shankar Singam has a year in review segment to give our Red Star Rebels something to contemplate between courses at Christmas dinner. A gift to put under the tree with sugar plum words of new Cal exit wisdom you can share with friends and family at the table. Even the ones who deserve lumps of coal in their stockings. Give them their present, Shankar.
California.
Thank you, Hal. Welcome to a very special episode of Activism in Action, the last episode for 2022. Let's look at 2022 and all of the rallies and protests that happened and what a monumental waste of time all of that was, okay? Let's take a look at that, right? So let's start first one with, December, this time last year, there was a fundraiser in San Pedro at the USS Iowa, I believe. And it was put together by Lockheed Martin, Boeing, all the gun manufacturers, just all of the war machine that makes America function. We're throwing this wonderful gala for the Democrats, and so there were these protesters standing outside in the freezing cold protesting this fundraiser, right? So there's like wonderful music and warm food inside, freezing protesters outside. Why? What was the effective change to that? Nothing. This country was founded on war. It will always be in war. It loves war and violence. It embraces it like you wouldn't fucking believe. So, yay. Okay, you protested that. Great. And then what happened in March? Ukraine. Great. Let's march on the fucking street one more time and let's walk, in solidarity with Ukraine? Who the fuck are we protesting? Russia? Like, what the fuck? Why are you walking on the street for Ukraine? What are you trying to say? Great. I support Ukraine. Hey, I'm glad that he's doing it. There's no need to walk on the streets for this, folks. I really don't understand that. You were just protesting war, and now you want him to go kick Putin's ass. I mean, Jesus Christ, have some consistency here, right? And then right after that, you had Roe versus Wade, right? The leak happened. Oh shit! Guess what? Let's walk on the street again. What was the fucking point of that? What's the point of that? I will say there was a couple of effective protests that happened targeting the homes of the judges of the Supreme Court, and of course you had the police, the fascist police dissuade those protesters, and I'll tell you why in a little bit later on. So you had Roe versus Wade, that decision overturned. So you had countless states make abortion pretty much illegal, making California pretty much the only state to bring in women from out of state to have their procedures done, having an influx of 1.6 million people from the United States come in to have their abortions paid for by us. Flights paid for by us, abortion paid for by us, flight back paid for by us, because we're Californian. We're that nice, right? It doesn't matter if you're Republican, if you voted for Trump. Hey, you know what? You need an abortion? Come over here. We're going to give you one for free, right? So that happened, right? Roe versus Wade. Let's walk on the street. Let's walk on the street because that's how you got women's rights, right? Or was walking on the street, right? Wrong. It was all through legislation. So and through the courts, and that's how they weren't going to have to win it back, right? Not in California though. Not in California. And then same month, May 2022, you had the Uvalde shooting, right? A couple of 9-year-olds get shot in the face. Oh my God, let's walk on the street. Let's walk on the street again, as if 9-year-olds haven't been shot in the face before in the United States, right? Are you kidding me? We're the school shooting capital of the fucking universe is right here in the United States, right? And where does this happen, of course? In the most violent state, the state with the most gun deaths per capita, Texas. Fucking Texas again. Right? And what protested that, right? Walked on the street, students walked out of the classroom. What the fuck happened? Those motherfuckers voted for the same guy to be governor again. Right? The same violent motherfucker who will affect no change, who will even deregulate firearms going forward from this point. Because Democrats and Congress and this government in general make their money from war. They make their money from trafficking firearms and guns. So they're not going to make a law fucking with the interstate commerce of firearms because that is money that they are losing out. Period. After that, you had, a mass shooting, coincidentally, right? In June. Another mass shooting. Let's walk on the street. Let's walk on the street. Maybe tell them to, make triggers illegal. I have no idea what the fuck they were walking on the street for. But it would be kind of pointless, right? It'd be kind of pointless because it was pointless because nothing came from it. There was a little bit of gun legislation that passed, which was effectively caused no change at all. August 2022, you had the wonderful country of Israel, beautiful Israel, just bomb and level the shit out of Gaza. Flatten Gaza, right? So you had Palestinians and all kinds of groups out walking the streets of LA protesting Israel, right? Of course, you had some sort of Mossad or some sort of like Israeli thugs out there as well, threatening all of these protesters. They were out there as well. But hey, let's protest Israel, right? Even though we give them billions and billions of California money every fucking year, in that they don't even need this money, and they hate the United States. They hate us, but they got us suckered because we give Israel a lot of fucking money, and they use it to kill a lot of Palestinians. Great. Walk on the street. That's really going to affect the change, right? And then last but not least, I'm going to bring up LA City Council with Kevin De Leon. I had the opportunity to meet with Kevin De Leon about 2018. I just about threw up in my mouth after I shook his hand. He's full of shit, folks. He's absolutely full of shit. I asked him how come he didn't pass universal health care. He gave me some gobbledygook, some bullshit, right? Because he's a piece of shit. He's a fake motherfucker. All this on his face, all plastic, folks. Try and put a picture up of me and Kevin here. You'll see. Kevin De Leon, the one effective thing that they did again, and ties into this next part. They protested his house. They stopped protesting his house and went to City Hall, but they protested his house, and that really put the fire underneath him. And I'll tell you why. When you go to target someone's home, when you do a block invasion is what it's called. When you block invasion and you're targeting someone's home to protest, you're not there to protest that individual at all. When you do a block invasion, you're there to protest. You're there for the neighbors. You want the neighbors to see why the fuck you're out here. What this is doing is two things. One, you're going to make the life uncomfortable for that neighbor and for the intended target. Because when that guy comes home, and then he's going to have to answer to his neighbors, like, why the fuck were there a bunch of motherfuckers on our block, asshole? Right? Two, you're going to make people who probably never follow politics, never follow local laws, never follow even the news, all of a sudden wonder what the fuck is going on. So you're activizing people. They might be pissed off, but should they take their rage out on you, or will they take their rage out on their neighbor? That is a fundamental question right there. They might stick with their neighbor in front of you, but in their minds, they despise him. In fact, we've had nothing but successes doing this because we do it right. We're not there targeting the home. Well, we are yelling at the home, but we're not there for the home. We're there for the neighbors. We want the neighbors to get upset. That's the key with block invasion, folks. It's a strong tactic to use. I see it using to get all of the right-wing Democrats out of California. We could do that this coming year. Let's start with the fascist GOP Kevin McCarthy up in Bakersfield, up in right-wing Bakersfield. It's a hard battle fought up there, but let's target that motherfucker, right? And any Democrat for that reason, any politician for that reason. You don't like what the fuck they've done. You don't agree with what they've done, and others feel the same way. Go to their home. Go to their home. That's all I've got for you, Hal. Looking forward to this next year. I think the fight's going to be great this coming year. The Nazis are on the run, and things are looking a little bit better, minus a recession that's coming up. Other than that, Hal, thank you once again. Another year we've locked down. Hal, you do a great job, sir. You are a true California patriot and a gentleman. I bid you a happy new year. Thank you.
Thank you, Shankar. Just the kind of thing we always wanted. And you didn't think he got you a present. Thinking like that will put you on the naughty list next year. Just saying. Okay, let's keep this sleigh ride going. Up next. Talking Points. This is Talking Points. Sinclair Lewis, in a line from his 1935 novel, It Can't Happen Here, stated, "The worst fascists were they who disowned the word fascism and preached enslavement to capitalism in the style of constitutional and traditional American liberty." An echo of that warning from Sinclair Lewis is his most famous quote, though, that goes, "When fascism comes to America, it will be wrapped in the flag and carrying a cross." Early 20th century American quotes that by the 21st century take on that kind of "I hate it when I'm right sometimes" gut feeling of dread most Californians can only really define now as prophecy. Because for any Californian who's been paying attention, it's pretty obvious the American ultra-right is doing exactly what Sinclair Lewis warned America about. And even though the systematic authoritarian takeover of the United States of America is being brought to you in brilliant 4K giant flat screen color instead of scratchy old newsreel black and white, none still dare call it fascism. The obvious usual suspects of U.S. crystal conservatives, white supremacists, QAnon conspirators, American nationalists, militia extremists, billionaire elites, and the corporate oligarchs who hold the purse strings don't even hide the agenda anymore. Because the American conservative media use words like Christian nationalism, American traditionalism, American exceptionalism, Second Amendment patriotism, and, of course, U.S. capitalism instead. All terms used to cast doubt that it really is happening here by tiptoeing around the word fascism, just as a massive nationwide network of Christian right-wing radio stations, Fox News, and both light and dark internet media platforms have spent most of the 21st century prepping for. A fascist political agenda that red state legislatures in 27 of the 50 U.S. states have been using gerrymandering and voter suppression to pave the legal foundation for. A fascist political agenda that an utterly corrupt U.S. Senate majority leader unashamedly blocked, then stole U.S. Supreme Court nominations to permanently silence legal constitutional opposition for. A fascist political agenda that, within the margin of error, unfortunately, 50% of our fellow U.S. voters, knowingly or not, in the last presidential election, cast their ballot for. And a fascist political agenda that a spineless, gutless National Democratic Party that ignored its own progressive ideals to woo the mythical American centrist has proven itself again and again completely unwilling or incapable of confronting an American Christo-fascist nation. Newsflash, by the way, for the DNC. The January 6th riot was just a dry run. And when you heard progressives, socialists, and even communists say the center cannot hold, that is exactly what they fucking meant. So, everybody, don't get comfortable. Because regardless of how media and the left spin Joe Biden's record, or how Democrats dodge the worst of the bullets on the 2022 midterms, American fascism is alive, well, active, and still just one election away from game over. Because with the pieces the American ultra-right already have in place and are now putting in place in the state legislatures and the courts, once they win again in a general election, it will be game over. U.S. democracy will legally and constitutionally end, and going back will have no peaceful, viable solution. Not for decades, if not generations. And that's only if Californians decide to commit to continuing the nightmare of never-ending resistance, fruitless legal battles, and empty symbolic gestures Californians find themselves in now. This unending political division and gridlock where nothing ever gets done, even a consideration for the best case scenario as the national legacy Californians can hand down to our children? That the best we can do? If you want a historical perspective, what Californians are seeing 3,000 miles away in Washington, D.C. today is a kind of Weimar America, a divided national government, horribly in debt, with diminishing confidence, a single major crisis away from socioeconomic collapse. So what does this mean to progressive Californians, our California progressive values, and the California independence movement? Well, to paraphrase Sinclair Lewis, that's our talking point. And it goes, when American fascism comes to California, it will be wrapped in a co-opt American flag, thumping a cherry-picked Christian Bible and waving oppressive legislation based on the constitutional interpretations of an illegitimate Supreme Court. Looking to the horizon, it's pretty easy to see the direction this is going to take. Texas abortion laws, Florida anti-LGBTQ laws, Alabama anti-immigrant laws, Georgia-style voter suppression laws, just to name a few, systematically making their way through the state legislatures of Red America. That's happening now, by the way, if you're not paying attention. They get the usual doomed-to-fail legal and political challenges, by the way, from the American left establishment. But Democrats who beg for money and promise to fight at pre-staged press conferences on the 6 o'clock news, they predictably shrug and cave to conservatives a few days later when the cameras are off. In places where it might still be legal, anti-fascist demonstrations and rallies are held with progressive groups and coalitions that may form up to march or fundraise. But they have to know that the political deck is already stacked against them, and in fascist America, the House can't lose. Because eventually these oppressive policies will be upheld in right-wing partisan state and federal courts. Then they will be normalized as true patriotic American values all across conservative media, and anyone who opposes them will just get dismissed as being un-American or worse, face prosecution. And as soon as the Republican Party inevitably regains control of the federal government, those iron-fisted Christo-fascist American policies become enshrined in American federal law with the Supreme Court's ironclad constitutional blessing. So at what point do Californians finally realize American fascism is coming to our nation state, and that with half of Americans already at least okay with that fascist future, the writing is on the wall, and it's a choice of California independence or American submission? When fascism comes to California, it will be wrapped in a co-opt American flag, thumping a cherry-picked Christian Bible, and waving oppressive legislation based on the constitutional interpretations of an illegitimate Supreme Court. Tell me I'm wrong, please. Because this is a problem, considering Californians average around 70% progressive in their political views. And even California Republicans generally run a little more libertarian on their social politics than their American counterparts. I mean, climate change is real. Fracking is bad. Black lives do matter. Police brutality is bad. A woman has a right to choose. Pot should be legal. Immigrants deserve humane treatment. LGBTQ people should love who they love and have the right to get married. Healthcare is a human right. Housing is a human right. Education should be accessible. Religion has no place in government. Corporations are not people. And guns are not synonymous with freedom. You know, California values. I know every Californian has their own list of what issues are most important, but Californians need to stop trying to fix America. It's an America that doesn't want to be fixed. As Californians need to look at cold, hard, modern reality and understand that the fight for the soul of America is over. And I hate to be the one to break it to you, but we lost. I'm sorry if I'm the first person to say that to you out loud. But the question today is, do Californians want to live in America's fascist future? Can Californians even survive a government 3,000 miles away, controlled by people who represent an America openly hostile to California's values, whose sole intent is to shove their liberal tears agenda down our throats? Is it better to risk standing for liberty on California feet than to risk begging for mercy on American knees? Think about it. Happy holidays. This is Talking Points. Well, that's it for Red Star Report Season 2. This is podcast number 35, and that's a wrap on 2022. For more Red Star Report information, check out our website at redstarreport.com. Subscribe to our Red Star Report YouTube channel, go to our Red Star Report Facebook page, Twitter, and Instagram, and give us a like, give us a follow. Because if you want to support the Real California Independence Movement's media group, it's all about the algorithms. Our thanks to all our Red Star Rebels for watching. We will see you with new episodes in 2023. We are Red Star Report.